Legendary.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first Kobolds and Catacombs reveal stream. I am Brian Kibler, and I am joined by Peter Whalen. For those of you who don't know Peter, tell us a little bit about what you do on the Hearthstone team.
Sure. So I'm one of the initial designers on the Hearthstone team. So we work on designing the cards and the flavor for the set before it gets handed off to Final Design, who does a lot of the balance for the set.
And you were the lead initial designer on Kobolds and Catacombs, is that correct?
I was, yeah. So we have somebody who takes the lead on each of the sets, and they work on it both in the very initial phase and then following all of the flavor and working with a lot of the other teams on Hearthstone, like art and sound and community, towards the end of the set as well.
So for Kobolds and Catacombs, this is a very different flavor of set than we just came from. You know, we had Knights of the Frozen Throne, we got Death Knights, we've got Arthas and everything going on there, and now we're going underground to explore and find treasure. Can you tell me a little bit of how we got from point A to point B here?
Yeah, for sure. So we tried to do something different every set. We've done dinosaurs and Ungoro, and then we wanted to do something sort of darker and creepy in the Frozen Throne, and then now we wanted to do something a little bit sillier, a little bit of that sort of whimsical Hearthstone spirit. So we said, let's do the treasure set. Treasure set sounds pretty awesome. I want to go find awesome things underground, and then that naturally led to who are cool monsters that we could find underground that would build these elaborate catacombs, and said kobolds. Kobolds are silly, they're fun.
So speaking of these catacombs and these dungeons, there's a special addition to this set compared to most, which is the dungeon run. And we're going to be looking at collectible cards today from the normal set. But before we get there, can you tell us a little bit more about the dungeon run and sort of where the idea for that came from?
Yeah, for sure. So the dungeon run is a new solo mode for Hearthstone. You go in, we give you this lowly level 1 deck, and you fight a sequence of increasingly difficult bosses. And as you beat them, you get some awesome treasures to add to your deck. Your deck levels up along with you. And it's an entirely different experience every time. When you die, you're out, and you have to start over from the beginning, and if you win, you get to start over again, maybe as a different class, maybe as the same class. And there's 48 different encounters, there's tons and tons and tons of different treasures that you can find, and so every time you play, it's just this different single-player experience.
Yeah, I've actually been debating with myself. I'm like, okay, well, when the set comes out, do I want to just try and build decks with the new cards? Do I want to try and explore all the different stuff in the dungeon run? Is this something that you expect a lot of people will have trouble with, given how cool it seems?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. I think I'm going to do dungeon run for sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty excited about that. I think it's going to be this amazing experience that's really different than anything else we've done. But yeah, there's some cool collectible cards that we're going to show off, and some decks I'm excited to build too.
Well, before we get into those, can you let us know a little bit about what we're going to be seeing today?
Well, I don't want to spoil any secrets, so we've got some cool stuff. We have one of the cutest cards in the set. I really love it. We've got, well, just for you, we added a dragon to the stream, so we've got a dragon coming up. There's some good stuff. I'm excited.
All right. Well, are we about ready to go then?
Yeah, let's
Shall we do it? All right. Well, let's see the first card. Feral Gibberer. After this minion attacks a hero, add a copy of it to your hand. Oh God.
This card is incredibly
This is
fun.
like a tribble. Like it just keeps multiplying. Right?
With giant teeth. I think this card's adorable.
This is the one you're saying was cute?
This is the one I think is cute. I love this card. I wanted to make a plushie. I think it'd be fantastic.
Different strokes for different folks. Oh dear. We have some gameplay of the Gibberer going to town, I think.
Oh man. This basically happened the first playtest game with this card. Isn't it adorable?
I don't even know what that sound it's making is.
It's gibbering.
It's I'm actually pretty excited to try this with Hobgoblin in Wild.
Yeah, that sounds pretty fun.
You just have unlimited 3/3s for one, essentially.
Basically,
just keep
yeah.
attacking, getting your opponent, okay.
Oh man, yeah, the first time we played this, it got a little bit out of control, and so I had basically a board full of these and also my hand full of them, and I couldn't figure out how to get rid of them.
It's like, oh no, what have I done to myself?
What have I done? My hand is just gibberers. It was pretty fun. So then we kept it.
All right. So how did that design come about? Like, what was the sort of thought process going into that particular one?
So this one's actually top down. So we had a fantasy that we wanted to capture, and then we put a card into it. We wanted this creature that there's all sorts of them in the dungeon, and they, you're in the dungeon and you're just getting swarmed by these little creatures. What is that creature that's swarming you? And it says, all right, it's got to have a way to multiply, but we can't make it just multiply all the time too aggressively. So, because we want it to be small and sort of capture that vibe of these little guys that are biting you and crawling all over. So we said, all right, if it attacks the enemy hero, then you can get more of them, and then they multiply very, very fast.
All right, yeah. I mean, as we saw right there. Oh, and here we see.
Oh yeah, these are some of the early
concept
concepts.
Art. Oh, nice.
Yeah, this character's totally unique, so we had to experiment with a whole bunch of different stuff. The artist was awesome and obliged us with.
It's always really cool getting a chance to see the process that goes into, not only the cards themselves, but the art behind them. How this guy actually ended up being, as you said, the most adorable card in the set, I guess.
I think it's adorable. I love this card. Giant teeth.
He's definitely...
He's unique.
He is. He's a character.
Except that you get 14 of them or whatever.
Yeah, he's not very unique. There's a lot of that there. They multiply quickly, so...
Yes.
All right, well, shall we move into the next one?
Yeah, let's see what the next one is.
All right, card number 2. Whoa. This is a rogue secret.
This is a rogue secret.
Okay. Interesting. When a minion attacks your hero, instead it attacks one of its neighbors. I get the sudden betrayal part, thematically. Yeah. I like that. So
it's betrayal.
Okay, well, first of all, rogue secrets. What's up with that?
So we wanted to capture the fantasy for each of the classes in the set. We said, all right, if you're in the dungeon crawl, what do classes do? Well, you have the warriors, and they're these huge armored brutes. You've got mages, and they have powerful spells. And rogues are sneaky. They're tricky. And how do we capture sneaky and tricky in Hearthstone? We said, well, I guess secrets make a lot of sense.
Yeah, a lot of people have actually wondered why rogues sort of weren't one of the secret classes to start with.
Sure.
Rogues, they're tricky, they're sneaky. It seems like they ought to have secrets. So, this makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that it's happening right now.
Yeah, sure. So in the beginning, secrets were in Rogue. Okay. It was actually one of the original secret classes, but Rogues already had a lot of stuff going on in Classic. They had combo, they had a lot of cool, interesting cards that interacted. And some of the other classes, like Paladin in particular, they don't have a special keyword that's just for them. Sure. So they shifted secrets into Paladin so that there was a lot more going on. It sort of balanced out the class a little more. And now lots of classes have different stuff going on, and so we're going to try out secrets in Rogue.
Are Rogue secrets something we can expect to see more of?
Definitely there's going to be more in this expansion, because if there's just one secret, it's pretty boring.
It's not very secretive, no.
But going forward, the plan is to not do them, at least not for the next set, and then we'll kind of figure it out going forward. One of the nice things about having the Standard and Wild split is that we can keep Standard, just 3 classes have secrets. If you're a player that doesn't like to see secrets all the time, then we can keep it restricted. But in Wild, there's going to be a lot more stuff going on. It's kind of a crazier place, and Rogues will have the ability to do some of that stuff.
And in Standard for now, they'll certainly have secrets as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm pretty excited to see Rogue secrets in Standard.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Rogues they're sneaky. They got their secrets.
Yeah.
So.
And they betray people, I guess.
Well, I mean, this is very like I guess we're gonna see.
Oh yeah.
Oh, either one of these betraying the other would be kind of a disaster if you look at it.
I think this is gonna end pretty well for our Rogue. This is one of those places where you just don't attack.
It's like, what could this be? You fool! Oh, there's the animation of the Rogue secret. The sort of daggers. That's cool.
I think it's awesome.
Poor Arthas, betrayed by his own gastropod.
It's tough. Poor gastropod, slain by a giant Lich King.
I mean, that's kind of a gastropod's place in the world. Hopefully, is to take down
somebody else's minion.
That's what you aspire to when you're a gastropod, I think. At least as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
So, like you said, there's got to be more secrets in order for the secrets to not, to be at all secret.
Yeah, that was one of the important things for this. So there's 3 rogue secrets in Kobolds and Catacombs, and we wanted to make sure that you played around them differently, so that there was some interesting gameplay with them. One of the other things we really wanted to capture with rogue secrets is that they're all timing based. At the right moment, these secrets are fantastic, and so you need to take advantage of that. And rogues in general tend to be trickier, and very much you have to plan out your moves, and so the rogue secrets play into that.
So that one's particularly interesting because the opponent needs to play around several things. It's like not only do I attack, what do I attack, but it's how do I position my minions before I attack. Because if, for instance, you play a small minion between those two and then attack,
Yep.
it really throws things off entirely.
Yeah, exactly. And as the rogue, you get some ability to control that too, right? Which minions do you kill? How do you set up a board like that?
All right.
Which is pretty interesting.
Well, shall we go on to the next card then?
Yeah, let's see. Let's see what we got.
Ooh, it is another rogue secret.
It is.
Cheat Death. When a friendly minion dies, return it to your hand. It costs 2 less. Ooh. So this is kind of like a getaway Kodo, except more powerful, but it costs 2 mana.
Right, exactly. It's like a getaway Shadow Step in some sense.
Okay. Interesting. And there's lots of rogue cards that combine obviously very well with Shadow Step because there's a lot of decks to play Shadow Steps.
Right, for sure. And I mean, you're not playing Silverhand Recruits in your rogue deck.
Right.
So you have fewer of those sort of misses that a Paladin might have.
Yeah, it's interesting too because there's also, with both Cheat Death and Shadow Step around, when you're playing against Shadow Step, you want to kill their minion that you don't want to return to their hand.
Right.
When you're playing against Cheat Death, you want to avoid killing the minion that you don't want to return to their hand.
Yeah, exactly.
So it can really be kind of a caught between a rock and a hard place kind of thing playing against this
For sure.
Shadow Step as well.
Yep, exactly. One of the things that when we showed rogue secrets to other players for the first time, internally, they said, wow, it looks like rogues are just stealing a secret from every other class and then tweaking it a little bit. We have Misdirection is Sudden Betrayal. That's what they stole from Hunters, and they stole Getaway Kodos, and then,
They steal... I hope they didn't steal Ice Block.
Well, we'll see what
Actually,
we'll see what they borrow from me.
all right. It's not going to be our next card.
It's not going to be our next card.
We got to keep some rogue secrets for the rest of the reveal season. I imagine.
Right, exactly.
All right. Well, we do have another card coming up.
We do, and this one's special just for you, Brian.
Is it? Oh, I see dragons.
There are some dragons.
Oh, it's a priest dragon even. If you're holding a oh wow. If you're holding a dragon, deal 3 damage to all their minions. 4 cost 3/3. Oh man, this is awesome. So I'm actually just like I'm stunned. I'm in shock here because one of the things about dragon decks in Hearthstone right now, you do have very few options at the moment. There was a rotation of a lot of the older dragon cards from Blackrock Mountain and such, and this is a very good defensive tool. A lot of the dragon decks that exist right now, they're basically just like aggressive decks that have to push in the board because they don't necessarily have great ways to come back until Dragonfire Potion itself. Whereas this, especially when you're able to discover it off of a Netherspite Historian, it's one of the few priest dragons, can give you a lot of powerful early game ability to clear off that board.
Yep, exactly. One of the things we talked about was that Dragon Priest historically had been this very mid-range deck or moving more aggressive that was you would put all these minions on the board and just do a thing. We wanted to move it more towards in more of a controlling space. Give you some more options to play a defensive game with your awesome dragons instead of just trying to get ahead and play that sort of aggressive mid-range thing.
Especially because, a lot of times when you want to play dragons, you want to play the big, cool, impressive dragons.
Right,
you want to play the Ysseras. You want to play the Deathwings. And if you don't have tools to keep you alive until then, it's pretty tough.
Right.
And this is a great way, you got all these pirates.
Sure.
I will breathe fire on all of them, or breathe whatever that shadow. I guess it's a priest dragon.
Yeah, they're all Twilight dragons.
Sure, sounds good. So, but dragons are sort of a very central theme of sort of traditional fantasy of dungeon crawls. Breaking into the dragon's lair, stealing their treasure. We see a lot of that in these images. Are there a significant number of dragons in the set? Please say yes. Please say yes. Please say yes.
There are certainly a bunch of dragon images. There are a handful of dragons period, and then Dragon Matters cards as well.
Okay. That's another Alex Horley piece. I see his signature.
It is, yeah.
I think it's fantastic. I have Deathwing Dragon Lord on my wall. I'm going to have to get one of those too. That's sweet.
Yeah, that one's awesome.
Very, very cool. So, are there more Dragon Matters type things going on? Is this something along the lines of what we saw in Blackrock Mountain? Or are there more
not
dragons crawling in dungeons?
Yeah, there are dragons in these dungeons. Priest has a couple of Dragon Matters things. I mean, we saw Duskbreaker.
Yep.
Well, someday over the course of the spoiler season, we might see another thing.
All right, I am pleased already.
And we've got a card named Dragon Soul.
Yes,
it makes dragons.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So yeah, there's going to be some dragon stuff, but not a ton of Dragon Matters. Sure. Not like Blackrock Mountain.
I just need dragons, and I'm happy.
Yeah? Well, we've got some dragons for you.
All right, but we have some more non-dragon cards, too.
We do.
For those of you who, have terrible taste, but let's take a look at the next one. Ooh, the Rune Spear. So this is a legendary weapon.
This is a legendary weapon.
And this is the Shaman weapon, yes?
It is, yes.
After your hero attacks, discover a spell and cast it with random targets.
Yeah.
Okay. This is interesting. It is very difficult for me to wrap my mind around what's going to happen with this card. It's an 8-cost, 3/3 weapon, so it's not really a particularly efficient weapon for just killing minions.
For sure.
This is, a weapon that without the text you'd expect to cost 4, maybe.
Yeah.
So, what's sort of going on here? What was the thought process? Surrounding legendary weapons in general, particularly giving legendary weapons to a lot of the classes that didn't have really weapons before. And then how you got to this for the Shaman one.
Sure, yeah. So legendary weapons in general, one of the core fantasies of doing the treasure set is we got to have some awesome treasures. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to have legendary treasures in there basically from day one. And so we've got these weapons and we needed to put them in all the classes. So we had to figure out how do mages and priests and warlocks handle having weapons. And so we gave them these 0 attack ones. We've seen Alaneth, we've seen Dragon Soul, that are these weapons that advance your game plan in ways that aren't just beating up on minions. For some of the weapon classes, though, we wanted to let them beat up on minions. And so the Shaman fantasy, especially if you look at that traditional dungeon crawling thing, is very much in the space of, I've got a weapon, and I've got a weapon in one hand, I'm casting spells in the other hand. We wanted to capture that in the legendary weapon. And so that's where we are. We looked at the Shaman spells and said, there are actually a lot of untargeted spells that aren't going to hit a random thing. You're going to have a lot of control over it. And they're interesting in sort of different ways. So you can hit things like Devolve or Volcano if your opponent has a big board. You can hit Bloodlust if you've got a big board. Maybe Evolve. So there's a bunch of interesting options there.
Can this hit the spell stones?
This can.
So there's the one that copies your minions. So this could potentially is attacking, because it's a 7-cost spell too, right?
Right, for sure.
Okay.
So there's some pretty good stuff you can get off of this.
What I'm really hoping is that the Hunter legendary weapon is Thunder Fury. I played a lot of WoW back in the day, and the fact that Thunder Fury was a Hunter weapon was always one of the funniest memes to me. A Hunter in my guild got the first part of the binding.
Perfect, of course.
Because no one knew what it was yet. It was way back early vanilla.
Well, and then they have to get the second part of the binding. You've already got the first one.
It's not like you're going to get 3.
Right, exactly. So, I mean...
I'm just really hoping that card's in the set. Don't tell me if it is.
Well...
Either way, but I am really excited for the legendary weapons in general. Obviously, Dragon Soul, super cool. And seeing ways that you use the weapon slot to essentially create permanence, more so than a minion. Because obviously, any minion that's on the board, you can kill it with a spell, you can kill it with a minion. But weapons require a special type of removal, so they have a tendency to allow you to kind of build your deck around them in a different way, to expect them to remain in play a little longer. Yeah,
which is really cool. Dragon Soul is great for that. You put it out pretty early, and then every time you get one of these big turns where you cast a bunch of spells, you get a dragon.
Alaneth. Can you get more than one a turn with Dragon Soul?
Oh, yeah. If you have a really big turn, you got 7 dragons at the end of that.
Now you're speaking my language.
Oh, it's pretty good. You have a dragon army.
I see what you did there. All right. Well, moving along to the next card. Yeah. Branching Paths. Choose twice. Draw a card. Give your minions +1 attack. Gain 6 armor. So this is a druid card.
It's a druid card.
They choose
twice.
2 of 3. So this is, can you choose the same thing twice with this?
Yes, you see the same options each time, and you get to pick.
So this is, you get, I guess we're going to
here we're going to see it.
Oh, look at this tremendous army.
Oh, they're going to be pretty good.
So eat the mushroom, explore the darkness, or loot the chest are your options here.
All right. We're exploring. Guys are getting a little more powerful.
I might have chosen to.
Oh. If you knew you were getting that.
What do you know? So lucky. Now these.
That's.
Well played.
I think the appropriate emote there is actually thanks.
Seems reasonable.
That's just the emote metagame. And look, exact lethal.
Exact lethal.
That was actually a mistake, though. You're supposed to let the tiny fin or
get the final blow?
The final hit.
That makes sense.
It's pretty important for their self-esteem. I mean,
makes sense.
They need to understand that they have an important place in this world.
When we did the Ungora reveal video, it was a hunter killing a whole bunch of tiny fins.
It was horrible.
It was horrible, and this is the tiny fin strike back.
All right. So tell me a little bit about this general design. You know, obviously, it's kind of going somewhere with the choose mechanic in Druid, but you know, with a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more power.
Yeah, exactly. So choose one is a cool mechanic. It gives you a lot of different options. It's pretty skill testing, and it gives you variety in like how your games play out. And so we wanted to play that up. What's the leveled up version of the choose one mechanic? And we said, all right, it's going to be choose two. So we're going to give you 4 options. You're going to pick 2 of them, and that's going to be great. But we found 4 options. They were okay, but it was weird that you didn't get to pick the same one twice, and people weren't sure what was going to happen. So we cut down to just 3 options, and we said, okay, you can pick the same one twice. And that's a lot more opportunities for different choices that you can make. There's a lot of different ways this card can play out. We're pretty excited about it.
So is this sort of a new thing we'll be seeing more of in Druid? Are there more choose twice cards in the set?
There are not more choose twice cards in the set. This is the only one. You get to choose between what direction you want to take your adventure.
Well, if the audience at BlizzCon has anything to say about it, it is in fact certain death, I believe is what we're choosing.
I've heard that, yeah. Or lighting on fire.
That was pretty remarkable to hear, like sitting at the BlizzCon stage and just hearing this entire room chanting, certain death, certain death. They were really excited about it.
That was fantastic. That was a great presentation.
I think I was actually in the part of the room that died, so I really don't know how I'm here today.
That's tough. Crushing walls is devastating.
There's lots of interesting stuff, that we saw both there with the presentation. Is there more sort of cards that will play off of that theme of having to choose the right path in the dungeon kind of thing?
Yeah, there's some of that. The idea that you're in a dungeon and you're exploring, and there's a lot of different opportunities out there, and a lot of different. Sometimes it goes well, and sometimes it goes less well.
And how many times, are we going to see the treasure hoard and the certain death? And what if we choose a treasure hoard? We still don't even know what would have been back there.
That's true. There were some pretty good stuff out there.
We'll never know.
Well, I mean, eventually you'll see all the cards.
True, but I mean, we won't necessarily know if that was what was behind the door that said treasure hoard.
That's true. You can ask Ben.
I don't think he'd tell me.
I don't think so either.
Got to keep the secret.
Got to keep the secrets.
All right. Well, anyway, we're not going to keep the next card secret for much longer, though.
That's true.
So let's take a look. Oh, this is.
All right.
Oh, this is something going on here. I see a new card. Whoa. Level up. Give your Silverhand recruits +2/+2 and taunt.
And taunt.
So this is basically. Oh my god.
It's Quartermaster
it is
for
Quartermaster,
a new world.
Yeah, it is Quartermaster. Yeah, that's the appropriate remote.
Yeah.
That is the appropriate remote right there. Level up. Give your Silverhand recruits +2/+2 and taunt. So, obviously in Paladin, a lot of cards we have seen, like Quartermaster, which you just talked about, as well as like Lightfuge Stegodon.
Yep.
They care about the Silverhand recruits. That's one of the things that Paladin does. This is obviously a pretty comparable thing to the Quartermaster itself, but doesn't have the body attached.
Yep.
Also, just the level up as a thing is
obviously
a pretty core element of the traditional fantasy roleplay here.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to have a card in the set named Level Up.
Yeah.
And it's got, you saw the animation for it. It's got the sort of traditional World of Warcraft thing, and the sound it's awesome. So if we're gonna have something leveling up, makes sense. Silverhand recruits, they're gonna get a little bit better.
And Silverhand recruits in Wild are actually very powerful.
For sure.
This is something along the lines of Quartermaster that in a lot of matchups will actually be better because you care more about being able to defend yourself against, say, an aggressive deck than you do about just having an additional body on the board.
Yeah, for sure. And you've got Lost in the Jungle, which is great for making Silverhand recruits. You've got the Drywhisker Jailer, so you're going to have Silverhand recruits in your hand, so you actually get to pick when you play them out. So you have some control over who's leveling up.
Yeah, and I like the fact that the jailer was actually in the hand, and they're just don't
exactly.
forget I exist. Don't forget I exist.
I'm important too.
when you think about this card, think about this card too.
Yeah, exactly. You got Vine Cleaver. Vine Cleaver can make you some Silverhand recruits.
Yeah, definitely a direction that you can take Paladin. We've seen, like I said, in the wild version, that with enough of these buffing effects, the deck can be very powerful, and those Silverhand recruits can get super scary.
Yeah, for sure. And now they've got taunt, so you can play a little bit more defensively, and it's good against other mid-range or aggressive decks.
But also, if you just have a board full of Silverhand recruits like we just saw there, they don't need taunt, because just kind of smashing your opponent in the face.
Yeah, for sure.
Usually, very often when you played Quartermaster, you just played Quartermaster, and then your opponent pretty much instantly died.
That's true.
Although, if you have that, what's Duskbringer?
Yeah,
we'll
for
get
sure.
all those off
Clear
the board.
all the Silverhand recruits. Yep.
That's my dragon breathing sound. It's pretty bad right now because I'm kind of sick. I could do better if I didn't have a cough right now.
All right.
I'd be able to spew fire instead of cough.
Or shadow,
whatever.
shadow breath. Yeah, whatever he's got.
Exactly.
Yep, for sure.
All right. Well, I think we have a couple of more cards, right?
There's two more left, maybe.
Okay. All right. Well, dun 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 dun.
It's pretty well timed.
Lesser Mithril Spellstone. Summon 1/5/5 Mithril Golem. This is a warrior card.
This is a warrior card. It's the warrior spellstone.
It's always kind of hard for me to tell because I'm colorblind. So the frame around them, I'm like, that kind of looks like the pattern I'm used to seeing on Shield Block.
And the art's this is a warrior, very physical.
Well, it also says equip a weapon to upgrade.
That's
so
true.
I could have, even if the rest of it was gone.
Sure, it could be Hunter. Hunters have some weapons.
Shaman
have some weapons.
So,
but yeah.
Okay, so the Spellstones.
Yeah.
These are a new sort of overall card type in the set. Is there one for each class?
Yep, there's one in each class.
Okay. We saw a couple of them before, revealed at BlizzCon. And these are cards that they upgrade if you hit a certain effect, a certain threshold, whatever.
Yep.
For this one specifically, equipping a weapon. And you have to do this while the card is in your hand, correct?
Yep.
So if this is in your hand and you play a weapon, it upgrades to the next level. And I imagine we probably have the other levels available to us.
Yep.
Ta-da! So it will upgrade to summon 2/2 Mithril Golems. And then, once again, if you play an additional weapon while this is in your hand, it will again upgrade to... I figured that one out.
That's good.
Summon 3/5/5 Mithril Golems. So
it's a pretty good board for 7 mana.
Yeah, 7 mana. And we see the overall progression there.
Oh, nice.
Of Lesser Mithril Spellstone into Mithril Spellstone into Greater Mithril Spellstone. So, I mean, obviously the level 1 version of a lot of these cards is not terribly impressive.
Yep.
But if you do level them up even once, 2/5/5 for 7, that's pretty solid. It's not an immediate impact that necessarily is going to dominate the game, but at 3/5/5s, that's really powerful.
That's pretty good. Yeah, so some of the Spellstones are in the space where their level 1 version's pretty reasonable. We saw Jasper Spellstone at BlizzCon.
That's the Druid one?
Yeah, that's the deal 2 damage to a minion for 1 mana, which is like pretty reasonable. And then that levels up to deal 6 damage to a minion at the highest level. This one, summon 1/5/5 is not, that's not super special. But summon 3/5/5 golems is...
That can be really powerful.
Pretty awesome.
And frankly, if you're playing a controlling style of warrior deck, you will frequently have a number of weapons. Especially, I've been playing actually a lot recently with Forge of Souls.
Oh, okay.
Because Bloodrazor is so good in so many of the warrior decks that I just want to draw it more often. So I've been playing like a Forge of Souls, a War Axe, and 2 Bloodrazors. So I'm always guaranteed that my Forge of Souls gets me a Bloodrazor. So if you have this in your opening hand, you might even consider holding on to it if you're playing in a matchup where just generating threats is valuable. If you're playing against another controlling deck, for instance, you know that you'll have the time to get to the late game and upgrade this over time.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things in Kobolds and Catacombs is the recruit mechanic. We saw gather your party, so the warrior recruits are unbounded.
Right.
So you want to just have a small number of minions, just giant minions in your deck.
That's a good point, yeah. So because this is a spell, it doesn't disrupt your recruits. So if you're playing gather your party, you could still have this to generate threats in your deck, while still just having cards like Yasharaj, Ysera, things that you just want to put into play early. I like
and so you got weapons to go with that because you want to fill up your early game slots with things that aren't minions, and so this kind of plays into some of that style.
And so, what was the sort of overall thought process behind Spellstones in general? Like, how did you get to we want to have these cards that level up in your hand?
Yeah, so part of it was the treasure fantasy. We want to have cards that level up. Part of what's awesome about treasures, it makes you more powerful. If you play these fantasy role-playing games like World of Warcraft, it's leveling up, and that sense of progression is awesome. And we wanted to look at how we could do a quest type mechanic that was smaller. We did the quests in Angoro, and they were this huge deal. They were legendaries. The rewards were incredible, super powerful stuff. And so we wanted to do the sort of smaller version. They're a little bit easier to trigger, a lot easier to trigger. Play a weapon is way easier than, play a bunch of taunt minions. Right, exactly. But at the end, you didn't get something that completely overwhelmed your opponent. You did something very powerful that might win you the game, but it wasn't, now the game is over, I'm going to just let my win condition snowball from here. So we wanted to get something that's kind of in that middle space.
But still, like quests, they inform your deck building. You
For
think,
sure.
Okay, well, maybe if I'm going to be playing with this card in my deck, maybe I consider playing Forge of Souls to ensure that I draw more weapons, or just play more weapons in my deck.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Maybe if you're playing the Jasper Spellstone, you're going to play a little bit more armor gain. Maybe you'll add Branching Paths to your deck to get a couple of armor gain triggers.
That does that.
Yeah. So that works together pretty nicely. And so they push your deck not in the sense of I'm going to build my whole deck around this card, but more in the sense of this encourages me to go in a particular direction.
And that's often exactly the kind of design that I particularly enjoy. Like one of my favorite cards in Hearthstone right now is Curator.
Sure, yeah.
It's a card that you're like, okay, well, can I fit a dragon in this deck? My answer is always yes.
Of course.
But it also encourages other people who otherwise might not put dragons in their deck to put dragons in their deck. So I think it's doing good work.
Right, exactly. It's encouraging dragons out there, but
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting figuring out how you're going to take advantage of it.
It's like, okay, do I want to play a Kobold Oracle in my deck
Right,
because
exactly.
I have a copy of the Curator? So cards that just give you a little bit of a handhold of like, hey, maybe you want to consider playing a little bit more of this to make me better, I think are really interesting, because they're not the super, okay, you build your entire deck this way, but they reward you for finding things like Cobalt Scalebane, for instance, was a card a lot of players slept on early in the recent metagame, but now we see a lot of it, especially in decks with the Curator.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a pretty interesting thing that Spellstones do. And they're also pretty interesting to play out in the individual games, because there's a question of how long do you want to save it? You've got your Spellstone, it's going to summon 2 5/5s, you don't have anything else you're doing.
Well, I could play this weapon and
Yeah.
get another 5. And that's the sort of thing that, especially when I'm streaming, always it's like, ooh, but I could play 3 more spells before my Yogg. I could play another weapon before my Spellstone.
And
it
so
could be even bigger.
And that's both fun to do and also pretty skill testing.
Right.
It's interesting, like when do you play your Spellstone at the medium level or at the low level instead of waiting all the way to the high level?
Right. Well, I'm definitely interested to see what the other Spellstones are, but we have, I believe, one
more card
to show today. So let's see it. Ooh, this is a legendary. Dun 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 dun.
It's the Hunter Legendary.
All right. Wait, Hunters? I thought the Hunter Legendary was Savannah Highmane. So,
This is another Hunter
okay,
Legendary.
It's another,
Well, and this
okay.
helps out your Highmanes.
It does. So, Kathrena Whisperwisp?
Kathrina Winterwisp.
All right, you know it, I don't. So, Battlecry and Death Rattle recruit a beast. Wow. Okay. So let's see her in action.
All right.
Where's my...
Oh, that's a beast.
Average result, I think.
Yeah.
What did she say when she came into play?
Where's my pet?
The light has betrayed
Oh,
me.
that was a pretty good top deck.
Oof. Unlucky.
But sometimes lucky.
All right. I think that it would have been better if she got King Crush first and attacked with it, then got the 9/9. But I suppose this will do.
Never lucky, I guess.
No.
Just 2 giant dinosaurs.
So this is really cool. I think that it's interesting because it is a card that encourages hunters specifically to try and play those big endgame beasts. It's also a card that it's a Death Rattle card, and there's a lot of Death Rattle synergies. We were actually talking before we started the stream here about how one of my favorite decks to play right now is the Play Dead Hunter.
Sure.
And this is a pretty powerful thing. It's like, oh, I'll Play Dead this. It's like, oh, I get a gigantic beast.
Right, you go
potentially.
Savannah Highmane. Or...
Right. So what was the sort of thought process going on with the design of this card?
So yeah, we talked a little bit about Recruit before, and so Recruit is a mechanic. It's not in all of the classes,
Okay.
but a number of classes just kind of touch on it. Hunter, for example, does it. This is the only Hunter recruit card, and they do beast recruiting because that makes sense for Hunter. And so we wanted something that played more in that space of I want to play a controlling defensive Hunter deck that plays a lot of giant beasts. Playing giant beasts in your Hunter deck is pretty cool. And this at least gives people an opportunity to experiment with some of that stuff and try it out. That Play Dead Hunter's pretty cool. You've got the Carnivorous Cube to try out. Katharina's pretty awesome if you Carnivorous Cube it.
Yeah. That's pretty serious.
That's pretty serious. So is Highmane. So some of the cards that you play in that deck, you might work well with Carnivorous Cube, Play Dead.
Yeah. So this is one of the interesting things we've seen. I think it's Abominable Bowman.
Yeah.
That's always a card that's so hard for me to pronounce. Abominable Bowman. I think I got it.
Yep.
I think I did.
I'm not even gonna try.
But they're cards that kind of encourage a big hunter style of deck.
Yeah.
Because you want to specifically play larger beasts rather than necessarily just curving out with early game beasts just overwhelming your opponent. Are there some more cards maybe for Hunter that allow them to get the time to go there in the set?
Yeah, there's some more cards that let Hunter play more defensively. So Wandering Monster we showed at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
And that's a very powerful secret that promotes sort of that I'm going to play defensively. If an enemy attacks my hero, then I'm going to summon one of these random minions to defend myself.
Yeah, Patches, you come out there, you try to hit me in the face.
Right, sure.
Sorry, there's a Fell Guard.
Right, exactly. Like, that's pretty powerful.
It is, yeah.
So that's one opportunity. There's some other cards in the set that allow Hunters to have some more early game plays that play a little bit more defensively.
So how much is that kind of thing on your mind, especially as a person on the initial design team, thinking about designing a new set? Because initial design does not do the final game balance.
No,
So
we're definitely not the balancing. We try to get things within 1 or 2 mana, maybe 3 mana.
the realm of sanity.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't mess up playtest too much.
But you certainly are aware of the classes that tend to see the most play in the competitive environment,
Yeah, for sure.
on ladder, in tournaments. So Hunter, of course, is one of the classes that isn't as popular. Is that something that does inform your design process early on?
Yeah, for sure. So we definitely think about which classes are the more popular, the less popular, and make sure that some of them get tools in that direction. Initial design tends to work on a set early enough that we don't have a lot of insight into this is what the metagame's going to look like a year from now. It's pretty tough to know exactly what that's going to be. So we can't do that perfectly. And so the final design team does a lot of work towards the end of a set's towards the end of a set's design lifespan to try and make sure, the powerful classes are getting, things that push in other directions, and the weaker classes are getting interesting and powerful things. And so that's definitely something we think about. In particular, we try to make sure that classes get new things with each expansion, that there's, sometimes there will be the Beast Hunter deck that's interesting, and other times we'll give them Death Rattle cards, where there's tools in different directions, maybe Secret Hunter. We saw some Karazhan cards in that direction. And so we try to make sure that there's different things that are cool in each expansion. And we see that, some more Silverhand recruit cards in Paladin. We've seen a couple now. And so that's the kind of thing that we think about more in initial design is what are the class mechanics that are cool that we can play up here that we haven't done in a little while that are different.
Are there any particular ones that you feel like you guys have some cool stuff for people that we may not have seen yet, just that you can tease them what might be seen in the future?
Oh man, so Dragon Priest is pretty cool. Dustbreaker I think is an awesome card. There's some cool stuff in some different directions that Hunter can go too.
So of the stuff that we've seen so far, because we are sadly out of cards to show you today. That's the end, but there will be more coming in the very, very near future. Of the stuff that we have showed off so far, what's your favorite card?
Oh, that's easy. Feral Gerber by a mile.
There he is. The
Feral Gerber, he's just adorable, right? Don't you want to camp out in a dungeon and wake up to 50 of these things swarming you?
No, I do not.
But you probably level up at the end of that if you survive.
There's a caveat there.
Yeah, well, let's see, what else? I really love Rin. I think Rin's fantastic, the Warlock Legendary.
Oh, that card is really neat.
It's just a good story. It's really fun. The idea that you're doing this horrible ritual, this crazy thing, and at the end you get to destroy your opponent's deck.
It seems like it's a very difficult ritual to perform.
It is,
but it definitely
that's a
seems
fun
cool.
line of text to get to put on a card. I was very happy that got to actually ship. That's pretty cool to me. What else? Carnivorous Cube's awesome. I love that
That's
card.
actually probably my favorite card that we have seen so far is Carnivorous Cube.
That one's really fun.
I think that like I said, the Playdead Hunter deck is obviously a very interesting potential home for that card, as well as there's just so many other things you can do with it too. It's trigger your death rattles, attack a big a big minion with your big minion, then eat your big minion and get it to come back twice.
Yep.
It's kind of crazy stuff.
It's pretty awesome. The gameplay with it's super fun. There's various times where you're like, oh, Carnivorous Cube's the perfect card here, or it's not exactly perfect right now, but I'm gonna do something cool with it eventually, or maybe I'll like play it and faceless it, and there's all sorts of interesting things that you can do with it. You can use the Shaman Spellstone to get a whole board full of Carnivorous Cubes.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah, I like Marin a lot too. That story was in the set super early, where it's just.
Oh, I actually blanked on it. I was like, I've been playing so much Marin.
Sure,
and
yeah.
I'm like, Marin, was this a card? I'm like, oh right, the treasure chest guy.
Yeah, the treasure chest guy is like, we're gonna have an adventure, and he goes out there, and he makes a treasure chest, and then you have to break it, and that's a fun story, and I've really enjoyed it.
I actually with what's the crown? The one that
Xerox
gives you two
Crown.
Legendaries. I actually got 2 Mare Noggin Foggers off that.
Oh, nice.
And it was just like arrows going everywhere
That's
on the
awesome.
screen. And then someone pointed out that Noggin Fogger's first name is apparently also Marin.
Oh,
In the
I didn't know that.
I
That's awesome.
guess it is. I don't know.
That's very cool. That's perfect. Yeah, he's super fun. I was really glad that he got to come out early. I think that's been it's fun when we can do that, right? And have a metagame that's around this guy that's just breaking treasure chests.
Yeah, I mean, it's the sort of thing that I don't think it's a terribly powerful competitive card. I don't
Sure.
expect to see this necessarily showing up, but it's a super fun card to play with. I've been playing it in basically every deck since it came out, even if it makes absolutely no sense.
Sure, and he just makes awesome stories in games, right? Like, oh yeah, this is the one, I got Toland's Goblet, and I drew Shadow Step. And now I've got 9 Shadow Steps in my hand, and who knows what I'm going to do with that.
Yeah, I actually filled my hand with Netherspite Historians once.
Sounds pretty
had
fun.
no dragon. I put my
So
hand was full, so I
sad.
burned the next card. But then I got a lot of dragons off.
All right, that's good. Yeah, it just creates awesome stories every time. I really love that card.
Do you have any particular stories around any of the cards we saw today, as far as the design? Like anything that was like really weird getting to the point that we were sort of finally at?
Oh man, we've talked about a bunch of like how cards ended up places. Branching Paths evolved a lot as design went on, trying to figure out exactly how many effects and which effects they should be too. We try to make a treant on there. Gain a Mana Crystal was on there at some point. There's a bunch of different things that Branching Paths has done because there's so many different possibilities, and so that was pretty interesting. Playing Feral Gerber and filling up my board in hand, that was pretty fun. The first time you play a card, sometimes you don't really understand the right way to do it.
I kind of want to see the Feral Gibberer in action again. Can we do
Sure,
that?
yeah.
Is that something that's possible? All right. For those of you who may have come in late and missed this guy, I mostly just want to hear him attack again.
Yeah, listen to him and come into play too. Oh, recording that one was so much fun. The voice actor had such a good time, and he just riffed on all these awesome sounds. Oh man. Yeah, all of the backup takes for this are also fantastic. Feral Gerber, near and dear to my heart.
Well, I think we are getting about done here. We've showed off
Yeah.
all the cards. We've gotten a lot of good discussion in about the background here. So anything else you want to sort of share as final thoughts?
So not
on the
really.
stream here?
I just want to mention that the pre-order is live. You can get the Fantastic For the Horde card back. You can kind of see an indication of it on the screen, between our names. The expansion will release in December. We're super excited about that. There's a bunch of reveals coming up the next couple weeks. There's an awesome calendar that the community teams put up on our website. I'm really excited about. And maybe even more importantly, Brian's going to continue streaming right after this, so stay tuned. He's going to make all kinds of awesome decks, and I'm excited for it.
I will probably be playing a little bit more with Marin.
Oh, fantastic.
Getting some treasure.
Get some awesome treasure.
I'm excited. Well, anyway, thank you very much, Peter.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining
talking
us.
today. I am super excited for Kobolds and Catacombs. You said it comes out next month,
Yes,
correct?
it'll come out in December.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Like Peter said, if you want to hang out and watch my stream after this, don't go anywhere. I'll be hosting the channel right here. And thank you guys very much for watching. And hope you're as excited for Kobolds and Catacombs as we are.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.